Hello, everybody. This is Lucas. I wanted to give an example of working through a piece and trying to figure out, pun intended, some of the rule of the octave thinking that we've been working on in class. I'm going to actually use this Alessandro Grandi motet, which was the piece that I used as the example in the chord rolling unit of Thursday's class, but I think it's a quite good piece to work through in terms of harmonization as well. So this is published in 1625. All the early rules should apply here. We have the case signature in 1 flat, and it looks like the first chord is a G minor chord. Because we're trying not to think too tonally, I would probably try to avoid saying that the piece is in the key of G minor, but I'll just allow us that for a second, just to note that it's totally normal in the 17th century for something to be in G minor and for there to be only 1 flat in the key signature, even later in the 17th century, and I think maybe even into the 18th century. Okay, so one thing we might do just for fun is use the Joe Gasho basso continuo solfege system just to figure out what's going on here. So if we do that, let's just see what happens here. Okay, so if we just sing this, and by the way, apologies for my terrible singing. This is in a pretty bad register for me. So here we go. 5, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 5. 5, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 5. Okay, that's kind of interesting. I just learned that we have 2 phrases that have the same intervallic content. So we've got the first one in G minor and the second one in the relative major of B flat. And the second one goes higher, so rhetorically it feels a little bit more kind of open, a little bit more extroverted perhaps. So that's a kind of a cool thing to realize. Okay, so let's put some figures in here. First chord, I think G minor, there's no sort of question about that. The voice part confirms that with a 5. And of course we talked about Renaissance pieces often starting with a perfect consonance, an octave or a fifth. So that tended to persist somewhat into the early 17th century. Then we have what would look like a tenor cadence with the bass descending by a tone, rather in this case a semitone. So we would call this one of those mi cadences that we talked about. And the rule is that this would normally get a 6, and then the D would get a sharp, and the sharp is already there in the original. So this is a great addition, which only has the figures that appear in the original facsimile. I'm just going to make that a little bigger so it's a little easier to read for my eyes. And we see in the voice part that we have this 7/6 suspension, which lets us know that it is a 2-step cadence. I'm using that vocabulary from the Early Music Sources video that I asked you to watch. And so we'll go ahead and put the 7/6 there. Great. So I'm expecting that it's going to have a similar structure for the second phrase. So we have B flat major again, confirmed by the F5 in the voice part. And we have this 7 hanging over the bar again. And so I'm expecting this is going to be another 7/6 and then an F major at the end. However, there is something kind of wild that happens here. This 6 has to be an E natural above the G. Has to be this note. The reason is because, remember, a major 6th in Renaissance polyphony expands out to an octave. And you have, at the same time, a flat 6 in the voice part. So if those 2 things happen simultaneously, that's going to be pretty wild. Let's just listen to that and see if I can sing and play the right accidentals here. Do, dee, da, dee, da, dee. Now, here comes a matter of personal taste. Some people love that. Some people would say that is so fantastic. That you get that simultaneous, unprepared cross relation between the E natural and the E flat. Some people would say that's just too out of control, and especially this early in the piece, that's maybe something you might expect at the climax of the piece, where maybe the text is speaking about something extraordinary. Here you're just still singing "How beautiful you are, my love." I have a possible solution that I'll suggest, which is just moving that E natural over to the fourth beat. And I could even sort of draw a line here to sort of indicate that. Sometimes I might even put little dashes in performance to indicate, kind of what beats these figures come on. And now we have a situation that's kind of asymmetrical. We're bringing the 6 here in the middle of the bar and the 6 here on the fourth beat. And those two phrases are quite symmetrical. So this depends. If you're like a person who likes symmetry, maybe you want to go back to bar 2 and move this 6 over. I'm going to sing it once through in this asymmetrical way and just see what you think. There are many different solutions to this, and I just want to give you a sense of the parameters, and you can decide what you think is the most beautiful. But here's the solution I'm kind of going for at the moment. O quam tu pulchra es. O quam tu pulchra es. Okay, I kind of dig that. I sort of like that asymmetry, and I like not having that sort of direct cross relation, but the slightly spaced out cross relation. I think it's still quite spicy and quite expressive, and it doesn't sort of think, whoa, somebody just made a mistake or something so early in the piece. It's something I would have believed later on in the piece somehow. So anyway, matter of personal taste. Let's go to the second system now. The first chord is obviously F major. We just use the rule of the octave. I'm actually going to do something. I'm going to do a kind of in the style of Thérèse de Rhode. Still learning how to pronounce her name. I'm sure that was wrong. I'm going to do sort of a tonal realization of this. And I'm going to just do this and this. Okay, so this is how we would do it, sort of thinking from a more late Baroque perspective. Okay, that certainly works. But what if we, in the spirit of Bianciardi, tried to come up with a pre-tonal realization that's probably a little bit closer to what they might have done in this era, that's a little bit closer to the Bianciardi rules. Okay, the F major is still no question. The G, still in the rule of the octave, can still be just a G minor triad, so let's just for the moment leave that. And by the way, should mention that there are these dissonances that happen in the voice part. It would be normal in later Baroque realizations to play those sevens in the realization, not so much in the early period. So I'm going to just kind of let them be dissonant against the harmonization that we choose. And that was an important aspect of harmony in the early 17th century, that the voice can sing pitches that are outside of the harmony that anybody is playing. And that sort of contrast between kind of in the chord and out of the chord ends up being really important rhetorically. Okay, so continuing on here, this I think I could still do as a 6. There is a rule, I don't think it's listed in Bianciardi, but there's another rule where if the bass is a semitone apart like this, kind of an ascending semitone, that the first bass note tends to get a 6. Now don't get confused with the tenor cadence situation like we had up here, going from bar 2 to bar 3. That's a cadential situation where the bass note is a semitone higher than the second bass note. So we're descending from E flat to D in this case. Down here going from 7 to 8, we are going from an A to a B flat. and it's kind of normal that the A would take a 6 in that case. Okay, then going on here, although we can form, I'm in the second chord of bar 8 now, this chord. Although we can form a triad on this according to the rule of the octave, we've just played a B flat major chord in the previous beat. So I think we can, you know, kind of be a little bit tonal and just kind of keep the same figure here. Now we have our E natural, and that would normally take a 6 in the key signature with 1 flat, right? Because we need to avoid the 5th on this B flat. Let's get rid of that. And then over the F sharp, of course, we have, oh, you know what? Sorry, I'm just going to put this all in a different color. I meant to do this all in red. So that was 6, that was a 6, that was a 6, that was a 6. So on the F sharp, we're also going to have a 6, because anytime we have a sharp in the bass line, it kind of automatically gets a 6. Then we have G minor triad. Here, instead of doing a sharp 6, I think I would follow the same rule that we used back here, where A going to B flat, the A gets a 6. B flat would be a normal 5-3, and every time I do that, I'm just going to erase it because 5-3s we don't need to mark. And then over the C, there's no reason why we can't just do a regular C major chord. So again, I'm not even going to mark anything. If I did, just to kind of, because the C is kind of acting as a subdominant, going to the dominant of G minor, here I am thinking tonally again. It's a slippery slope, isn't it? In fact, let's just forget about that. Let's just do, I might put a natural there just to make sure that I don't slip into tonal thinking and play a minor subdominant on my way to the dominant, which would be kind of more normal in a tonal realization. Okay, and then once again we have kind of a reprise of the beginning, and so we have the same 7-6 here, and of course the major for the finish. Now, let's play each one of these. So here's the tonal realization. Okay, and here's the pretonal version. I have to say, I really like the pretonal version. I feel like it really gives this piece a real 17th century sound. So I'm going to go with that. Another thing I wanted to mention is the kind of phrase structure of this. And sometimes it's good to even do this before you put in the figures. Sometimes it can actually change the way you figure it. We have 3 phrases here, right? So it's like, how beautiful you are, my friend. How beautiful you are, my dove. How beautiful you are, my beauty. And the bass line, of course, is going to be phrased in that kind of a way. So it's kind of like 3 pickups to a final kind of arrival point. Sometimes in the middle of those places, I'm going to actually thin out my realization. And in a lot of cases, I might just decide to walk up the bass line in thirds, or maybe even play no chord at all. And that will actually help give more direction to this walking bass line. So let me just try that. I'm going to play the pre-tonal version, and I'm just going to thin out some of those chords and see if you can just listen and hear which ones I do that. I'll give you a couple of clues. Let's say I'm going to probably just get rid of the 6. Probably not going to play much here. Here I kind of have to change the chord, and here I have to play probably something because it really is a different chord on each of those notes. Here I'll probably just, like walk up in thirds. So let's just listen to that. So be careful of that. Sometimes we get so, turning on our kind of basso continuo figured bass brain that we forget to think about the music. And the music always has to inform what kind of realization you're going to do, and sometimes it changes what chords you play. Let's talk for a second just about this little case, the last beat of bar 7. I really like the solution of just playing a third, or a tenth rather, above that note. One of the reasons is because there is a question about whether this E might be sung as an E flat. Of course, the original of this doesn't have all the bar lines that this modern edition has, and the accidentals didn't work exactly in the same way. So it could be that this E flat up here was still meant to apply by the time we get to bar 7. So let's just hear what that would sound like. And I'll start singing from bar 4. O quam tu pulchra es, quam pulchra es amica mea, quam pulchra es columba mea, quam pulchra es formosa mea. So I think that sounds kind of cool. Let's listen to, I'm just going to go right from bar 7 and sing the E natural. Quam pulchra es amica mea. I don't know. It's really hard to say. And of course, you'd have to have a pretty good singer to really sing, sort of exactly E flat or E natural, really in tune. There's just something about that pitch. It's kind of works as a bridge between the F and the D, which are a little bit easier to hear. So playing a third there is a kind of safe bet and allows your singer a little bit of leeway in case the tuning is not perfect on that note. And also, in case you were playing with other continuo players who might put the E flat in there somewhere, or the E natural. Anyway, playing thirds is very often a safe bet, even though the treatises don't talk about that so much. It's a good solution here. Okay, I think we'll stop there, and we're going to do a little bit on a Frescobaldi piece in just a second. So I hope that was helpful, and here comes a pause.